And I can play ball in real life. So when they make it fun, it never work. They think they offended me. I'm dodging that energy. I know who my friends are now. You currently dead to me. This shit gon' last a century. And every time they mention me, increase my life expectancy. Maybe this my destiny. Loved and hated, then hated and loved. Never betrayed to be a thug, but know a couple who hold slugs. Ain't fighting Spider-Man, but everything I'm spitting venom. Had to look in the mirror and get my shit together. Cause sometimes you think it's over, but it's only getting better. Yeah, good friends going with the wind, like Pac said. Legends never die, so we not dead. I'm a fresh white boy, you can call me a pothead. They can say I ain't got bread.
Ramily. Welcome in to some Rams talk. Today, I'm joined by a legend, Soap, big Rams fan. Soap, introduce yourself, my man.
Man, most of y'all just know me as Soup on the Twitter. Adrian in real life, but Soup is fine. Uh, been down with these Rams for over 20 years, man. I'm happy to be sitting here talking Rams on a Friday with the Ramily, brother. Like no better feeling.
Hell yeah. So when did you become a Rams fan?
Man, I'm not even gonna hold you, brother. My favorite position in football is running back, and I came on board when Marshall Faulk came on board. He was the best thing smoking. I never was around to watch Barry run. So Marshall to me is Barry. I'm not saying that he's better than Barry, but he's Barry to me. So I hopped on right before we grabbed that first Super Bowl, and I thought that we were in for a long ride to the top. I didn't anticipate 15, 16 years in the wilderness. But these last few years with Sean McVay at the helm have been easily some of the best years of my fandom.
I agree. That's when I started. So I was 2000. Marshall Falk, Kurt Warner, Torrey Hall, Isaac Bruce. Like, you're right. We should have had a dynasty, man. But fortunately, another team wants to record our walkthroughs and all that nonsense. So fortunately, we didn't get that.
It is what it is, man. I feel like we ought to have at least two more rings. But it's going to be that much sweeter when we're getting them in LA back at home.
Yeah, I feel you on that. So yeah, through the first two games, the Rams are 1-1. Beat Seattle, lost to San Fran, unfortunately, but that was a competitive game for the most part. Um, through the first two games, what are your thoughts on the Rams?
Uh, that they believe in themselves a lot more than the outside world believed in them in the offseason. That this offense, really this team is a lot further along than what, a lot of even fans projected, even the optimistic fans, right? I think we've seen them hanging out on Twitter and shout out to them for holding it down in the offseason because they was out here going to awards and like, y'all don't know we going to playoffs and stuff like that. But I think if you're being realistic with yourself as a fan, when you see all of these big departures, especially at key positions, you see Jalen going, you see Leonard Floyd is going. You already know that we didn't get Vaughn back. Bobby's like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I'm out. I'm going back to Seattle. And then it's like, man, how are we going to do this? What is Matt going to look like when he comes back? Is Coop going to be himself when he comes back? Does AD still got more in the tank? And then all the young guys, right? Given the history of our, previous, I want to say 5 years of drafts, we like it ain't been that great. We ain't hit that hard on anybody. We've had some people that stepped up and they've been contributors, but no real star players. And now you want me to trust the largest rookie class ever drafted in the NFL? Like, I'd be lying to you if I said I was like, oh man, this is going to be a playoff team. I think I had us at like 9-8, 8-9 is right around where I was sitting. So through two games, the offense looks good. I like the fact that we can extend the drives and really give the defense a break. Um, but the biggest thing that's pissing me off right now is the lack of discipline from our secondary, particularly from one corner. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Um,
DK.
yep, and just the tackling is bad. The tackling is atrocious, and it's like go back and watch some of this stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I know them boys down in San Francisco. They're tough to tackle, but there are some times where it just looks like we're diving at the turf. It's really embarrassing to watch on film how bad the tackling is. And the tackling has been bad. It's not just this season. It was bad last year, and it's still bad. So I don't know if we need to get back to basics, but I need these people to get used to contact and hitting these boys and wrapping up.
For sure. Yeah, like the tackling definitely has been off. especially like you said on the outside, the corners. Darion Kendrick, boy needs to learn how to tackle. He's trying to take Jalen Ramsey's spot, which is no easy task,
No,
obviously. Um, but watching that Giants game yesterday, I feel like honestly, as bad as our tackling is, their tackling is just as bad because Debo Samuel, he shit on them too. To be honest with you.
100% he did. And I mean, I don't want to put us in the same territory as the Giants because I think that team has got a whole bunch of other issues going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like there was some plays, and I don't want to dog nobody, especially my guy Ernest Jones. I love Ernest Jones. I think he's going to be big time. We heard AD today at his press conference. He's got a lot of confidence in Ernest as well. But man, sometimes even in the Seattle game where I'm watching, and it just looked like I'm like Ernest, that's the best you got, brother. Like you just gonna dap him up and let him go by you? Like this is what we doing? You supposed to be the captain of this defense. I did Nick Scott leaving take all the dog out of this defense? Right? Like, is he the only person that actually know how to hit between him and Jalen? And to your point with DK, it's like, yeah, you got to learn behind Jalen for a whole year, but the only thing you learn how to do is talk trash. You ain't learn how to actually play the position because I know a lot of people want to talk about Kyron and him not looking the ball in right, and it caused that pop up that turned into an unfortunate interception. But I really think I think the game got away from us on those two penalties right before the half that put them in the red zone and allowed them to score right before the half. Because if we get into that half 17-10 with the ball back, you can't convince me that we're not driving down and putting at least 3 on the board. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I said, man, the secondary's got to be better. The tackling has to be better. I understand it's Debo Samuel. I understand it's Christian McCaffrey. These guys are tough to tackle on a regular day, but I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking that because they're our rival, like we should be bringing a little extra to that fight in particular? It just seems like the Rams are not about it, and I get it. I heard all the narratives. You still hear it on Twitter today, and I'm supportive, right? Like we got the one that mattered, but they all matter. I'm sorry, I'm a fan, bro. I hate that team in the Bay. They all matter. I want to win them
Me
all.
too.
You guys,
Mm-hmm.
everybody sitting there complaining about the stadium taking over. You know why the stadium gets taken over? It ain't just because people are selling their seats. And you know why people are just selling their seats? Don't nobody want to go to a game where you already know what the outcome is going to be. The Rams have to start playing at a level where we are more than just competitive, where we're consistently trading blows, trading wins with these guys. If we were beating them consistently, more Rams would show up. It wouldn't be as red because those boys from the Bay are not making that trip up there for an ass whooping.
That's very true. I mean, 9 straight regular season wins now. Obviously, the only thing we could hold over their head is we got that one that really mattered.
Mm-hmm.
But as you mentioned, during the regular season, it does kind of suck, like having to hear these guys after we lose to them, and they think we're soft. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then, like you said, there was some fans like happy, like, oh, at least we competed, but I'm on the same wave as you. I wanted to win.
Mm-hmm.
If you go up 17-10 at half with McVay's record with the lead
Mm-hmm.
at halftime, you for sure have like a 90% chance of winning. I get it. It's San Fran. They're explosive, but they had no timeouts on that drive. And the same thing happened yesterday with the Giants. It's these
Mm-hmm.
third and longs. It seems like defenses are just beating themselves versus the 49ers. It's sickening.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I think Brock Purdy, he's a system quarterback. You put him on any other team, he's not doing what he's doing. He's throwing screens, and Kyle Shanahan is drawing up routes
Mm-hmm.
that get these guys so open that I think I can make these passes. He was blitzed a lot, but these blitzes were not affected by the Giants
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Yeah,
And
I
what
like. I mean, let's not crown Purdy, but at the same time, let's not downplay what he's doing. Right? Like he's clearly we've known for a long time that Kyle Shanahan, when it comes to his system and stuff like that, because even McVay runs a version of that system. For anybody that subscribed to the Athletic that read Jordan Rodriguez, well, not read it, but subscribed to her Play Callers podcast, where she kind of did the breakdown and the evolution of that whole system between McDaniels and McVay and Shanahan and LaFleur. Like we all run the version of the same system, so it's a brilliant system, but it takes a particular quarterback to be able to operate that system. And keep in mind, like this was a system that stumped Jared Goff, like ended his confidence. Uh, it's something that even Matt Stafford, right? We had to make some adjustments to the system, even in the Super Bowl year, to make him more comfortable within the system. Now, I think now that he's fully healthy, we're seeing what that looks like with Matt Stafford running it for real, because this is his third year into it. But Trey Lance, who physically gifted, maybe doesn't have the most repetition and stuff like that. He was stuffed by the system. They've got what's the Sam Darnold? He's the backup now for it. I mean, he's had a
Real.
slew of quarterbacks that have struggled to run the system. The two quarterbacks that have operated the best have been Jimmy Garoppolo and now Brock Purdy. And let's not pretend that they don't have an embarrassment of weapons, right? So Brock Purdy is doing exactly what Kyle Shanahan has him there to do, right? Which is I don't need you to make the big play. I just need you to make the smart read, get the ball out your hands, and don't give it to the other team. And he's done that, for better or worse. Like, we have to understand there's quarterbacks like Trent Dilfer that have a Super Bowl. And they did this off of the back of a great defense and just being a system quarterback, right? Which is get the ball out of my hands and don't give it to the other team. You don't have to be special at quarterback. They have everything else around him is special. Christian McCaffrey is special. Debo Samuel, even though I can't stand him, is special. Brandon Ayuk looks like he's coming to his own. Defensive side of the ball, Nick Bosa, Dre Greenlaw, who I think is dirty, but Fred Warner's there. Hufanga, like, they got dogs everywhere.
Hmm.
So Brock Purdy can be ordinary, and I'm a Big Ten fan. I'm a Michigan fan, so I watched him a lot. I always say he wasn't special there either, but he's accurate and he understands defense and is able to make these reads. Now, some of these throws that he was making even last night in the game, man, I gotta say, I was like, man, he is lucky that his receivers are such
Absolutely.
ballers and getting themselves in positions, or he's lucky that that defender is not getting his head turned around, because any defender. There was a couple throws where I think he's like throwing off of his back foot, and if the DB would just turn, that ball is underthrown, but his receivers are the only one that's expecting it, which you would expect it, right? They play with him in practice and run with the ones and stuff like that, so they know, hey, I'm gonna come and bail my guy out, and it's working for them. And I guess good for them, but sucks for the rest of us because we can't figure this out. And what your eyes tell you, it should be a solvable issue. But for what this is like his 12th game that Brock Purdy's played, 12th or
Yeah.
something, like, can't
Yeah.
nobody figure this kid out. It's
It's
ridiculous.
just crazy to me, and it makes no sense that no one could figure out by this point.
Mhm.
Everything San Fran does for the most part is horizontal.
Mhm.
And the way they use Kyle Juszczyk, the
Mhm.
fullback, is just ridiculous. It's like putting him in motion all the time when you know damn right he ain't getting the ball. He's
Mhm.
gonna lead block, but everything is horizontal, and you still got guys playing back, playing off the line.
Yep.
I mean, Purdy's thing is you obviously need to get pressure on him. He is somewhat accurate. Like yesterday, he did put it in the right spot for Debo Samuel to make a one-on-one catch,
Mhm.
which Debo adjusted great to that play. And he is definitely a system quarterback for sure.
Mhm.
And he does have this grace of God on their side. Like
Mhm.
everything, even that ball that he threw yesterday that bounced up in the air and number 10 caught on
Yeah.
San Fran, the rookie. Then last week versus us, a snap goes off of them into McCaffrey's hands. Like
I don't
it's
think since
insane.
I think since Kyle Shanahan has been there, I don't think I've seen the ball bounce our way a single time when we play San Francisco. Every time that the ball fumbles or comes out, like, I don't think I've ever seen us recover it.
Yeah.
Anytime it gets tipped, I mean, hell, I'll go back to the Kyron interception, bro. Any other team, if they weren't playing us, that doesn't get one handed intercepted. It lands behind the DB.
Hmm.
But it's us, so of course he's going to pull it down from way behind him, one handed. It's just I don't understand. I hate to say it. I was like, maybe it's God's favorite team. They play like it every time they play us. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, and San Fran gets favored with referee calls. Obviously, calls go both ways. Giants definitely had some calls that were like head scratchers yesterday. Um, it goes both ways, but I feel that the luck San Fran always gets, it does well in the regular season, and then come playoff time, when it's crunch time, their head coach seems to choke. I mean, at this point, you can't say he doesn't. Every
Right.
big game, Seems like he's blown Atlanta as the OC, Kansas City in the Super Bowl, us in the NFC Championship game. He has these big leads, and then he tries to get cute, and I think he is going to do that again. He has Christian McCaffrey, but he's going to put Purdy in a situation that maybe he's not comfortable in, where he's going to be throwing way more than he should with a lead. Seems so far like everything is good. They've stood healthy this year, which seems to always be their issue. Their kryptonite is the IR.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they play, this is why they get hurt. And another thing too, Trent Williams yesterday, that's ridiculous that he
I
throws a
can't believe he didn't
punch.
get ejected.
Anyone else is out the game and fined immediately
Mm-hmm.
for throwing a punch like that to Ashawn Robinson, who probably rubbed it in his face that we
Mm-hmm.
won the NFC Championship against you guys. He was probably talking crap
Mm-hmm.
because even when he was in LA, them two used to go at it,
Oh yeah,
and
they
that's
was
why I loved
John.
Ashawn. I
Yeah, they
loved
was
Ashawn, man.
John.
He's not the best player, but he could stop the run, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got that dog in him for sure, man.
I just did you happen to see the referee's explanation for why they didn't uh, eject Trent Williams? Did you see that came out this morning?
No, I didn't
Bro,
see that.
so they said that there was no clear evidence that it was done with malicious intent. They said there was no angle that could. They said they evaluated it and they, you can detect malicious intent if the hand was open or if it's closed fist and there was no video evidence. Bro, get on Twitter right now. There's 50,000 videos of this man closed fist punching him. And by the way, I don't know about you. If I'm in a if I'm punching somebody, it's probably with malicious intent,
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
hundred
Like
percent.
unless I'm like hazing like one of my brothers or my homeboys, right? And even then, I'm probably still trying to make it hurt. So there's malicious
Yeah.
intent. There's malicious intent behind it. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know what's going on with the officiating. Like I hate complaining about refs because I was raised in a house where my dad always taught me like anytime you give the referees an opportunity to decide the outcome of the game, that means you didn't do everything that you should have done during the course of the game to win. So, and I still firmly believe that, as annoying as it is, especially when the calls don't go your way and you know they should. But some of this stuff that we've seen this year from the referees is just it's egregious, man.
Mhm.
Starting off with the kickoff to the season between Kansas City and Detroit, where we've got a right tackle that's lining up in a split back formation. Nobody's calling him for being off the line. He's out there doing the stanky leg. Nobody's calling him for false start the entire game, right? Like Aiden
Entire
Hutchinson can't
game.
get off of him. And then now you got a guy throwing a punch on national television. There's cameras everywhere. You and me can see it all the way from our couch, wherever we're located. I'm down here in Texas. We can see it all the way from here.
Yeah.
But the guys that are on the field with all the actual replays and all the technology, you telling me you didn't see it? You didn't see that there was malicious intent? Like NFL officiating really ought to be embarrassed. They ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. So Mike LaFleur, I feel, has been kind of not getting any credit. There's probably people that don't even know he's on our staff right now because when he was on the Jets, he was getting the brunt of all of their offensive struggles last year, even though Zach Wilson's probably the worst starting quarterback in the league.
He's
So
close.
what yeah. So what do you think about Mike LaFleur and why is he not really getting any credit for this offensive turnaround that the Rams are showing this year?
I think he's not getting the credit because all the credit goes to Sean all the time until it's time to hire coaches in the next cycle, and then his name is at the top of the list, right? And that's just the Sean McVay effect, right? Like Sean is going to get all the credit, and don't get me wrong, McVay definitely deserves some of the credit, but I really like some of the stuff that Mike has brought in. I didn't think that he was a bad coordinator when he was in New York last year. I just thought that they didn't have the pieces on the line, and they didn't have the quarterback to make it work. Now you see that we have a revamped offensive line. Our quarterback is back healthy. You see some of the stuff that he was maybe trying to implement up there with that personnel in New York. We're able to execute it at a much higher level. So I definitely want to give him some props, but I don't think his career gets the resurgence that it's getting now without a guy that isn't getting enough credit, which is Coach Wendell, our offensive line coach. What he's done with this revamped offensive line, and the fact that he really let competition play out for real, for real. They've been saying it for years and years, and we, as fans, we've known that it's been bullshit. they paying like whoever's got the contracts is who's playing. But this year they actually had the guts to let Coleman Shelton beat out Brian Allen, which is something that we've been screaming for at least the last 2 seasons, right?
Yep.
Steve Avila is just give me 5 more of him, please. Give me 5 more of him all along this line. The dude is a dog. He's not afraid of anybody. I'm watching him pass off, stunts and twists from is fearless. Give me more of him. I'm happy to see that Alaric Jackson is back. All of his medical stuff is cleared up. He's holding down that left side, right? And then I gotta apologize to Joe Noteboom, man, because I was really slandering his name in the offseason. And don't get me wrong, he deserves some of the slander. But I was slandering him, I was slandering the coaching staff because I couldn't understand why they were so insistent that he gets the chance to start at right guard because I felt like Tremaine Ankrum had done well during the preseason. I was like, we haven't really seen no boom at right guard. You guys are just going to do this because you paid him. Havenstein, he's between him and Aaron. That's the last of a dying breed from St. Louis. And I love Havenstein.
Too.
I think we really got to start looking to move off of him because I've seen some stuff, some of these edge rushers, he struggles when they go speed to power. Um, but man, no boom fitting in at right guard. What a great fit that he's been. Now the problem with him is the injury history, obviously, right? Like he's got a bruised shoulder. He had a sprain in the first game. Like he's clearly not going to hold up all season. So
Mhm.
that's going to have to be a position that we address going forward. I wish that he would get healthy and we could just rock with him. But yeah, man, shout out to Coach Wendell because it starts with him and getting that line together, getting that 5 moving in the right direction, moving earth, moving bodies, right, pushing them back down in the field. And that lets Mike LaFleur, it gives him a lot more confidence to really scheme up some stuff, to let Kyron get loose, to put Ronnie Rivers back there. And you see Stafford. Stafford is comfortable, right, in the pocket. He's not got quick feet. He's stepping up. We've even seen him take off for a couple runs, bro. I haven't seen Matt Stafford run since he was in Detroit.
Yeah, for real.
So I think I like I said, Mike LaFleur, give that man all the props. He's scheming up something special. I think we're the number 2 offense in the league right now,
Yep.
and we're missing our best receiver. So he's clearly doing something special. But for me, it's all about Coach Ryan Wendell, man. Shout out to Wendy.
Absolutely. Wendell definitely got this O-line balling. I mean, if you allow 1 sack versus the 49ers and it came on a blitz, like that team never blitzes. They only need to rush 4. You seen it yesterday. Even
Mm-hmm.
Kinlaw looked good against the Giants O-line, who's missing their best lineman right now. But at the end of the day, it's a good comparison to see how them and Pittsburgh did. Then you look how we did. Stafford had all day. Now, if you have all day versus Seattle, that's one thing. But all day versus San Fran,
Mm-hmm.
that's a beautiful thing because San Fran's cornerbacks aren't the best. So the fact that this offensive line is given Stafford time, and then when you give Stafford time with Cup is the touchdown machine. Puka is doing his thing. He still doesn't have a touchdown. Tutu
Right.
doesn't have a touchdown. Only Kyron Williams does on a little screen. So once Cup is back and we're getting in the red zone every
Mm-hmm.
possession pretty much. And Maurer's been kicking great for us after those first 2 misses on a block and a 58-yarder or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
After that, he hasn't missed. And then people want to say something about, the Rams trying to lose by 7 to mess up the spread that was at 7.5. No, what McVay's trying to do is give confidence to his kicker
Mm-hmm.
because Maurer had that issue in Dallas last year for missed extra points, but he's looked really good. And I think when kickers come to LA,
Mm-hmm.
they just revive their career. Like
And
Matt
that
Gay in
day,
Tampa, he was horrible in Tampa. I was
he
like,
was.
no. Then he turned to the most accurate kicker and the highest paid now. So yeah,
Man,
kudos to him.
man, we've been blessed by some great kickers, right? Greg the Leg, he was good for us for
Oh
so many
man,
years, man. Kicked us right into the Super Bowl, and then
yeah,
we had
I
that.
cried.
Oh, bro, we had that awful stint with Sam Sloman. Everybody knew he was bad. Everybody knew he was bad. But then
Horrible.
to get Matt Gay and Matt Gay kicking us into the NFC Championship, man, like come on now. Like I'm
Mhm.
happy that Brett is working out because I'm not gonna lie, he missed them first ones in Seattle. I was like, dog, is this really gonna be it? Because the team was cooking, offense was going, and I was like, you gonna tell me we're gonna get hamstrung by a kicker? No,
Right.
brother. It can't go down like that.
100%. Yeah, I agree. So, Matt Stafford, I know we talked about him briefly, but how do you feel through two games how Matt Stafford's done, and is he back? Because the haters seem to think he was like washed.
I mean, I don't think he ever went anywhere. If I'm keeping it 100 with you, he never went anywhere. It's the difference between having an offensive line and not having an offensive line. That's what you're seeing right now, where he could feel comfortable when he's able to get through his progressions, and I think he's making smart decisions. And this something even with the Super Bowl season, right? You don't see Matt pushing a lot through these first two games. Where before I felt like when he had Cup out there, I think overall I love Cup. I think him being out is good right now because it's forcing him to build some relationships with these other rookie receivers and to really give them an earnest look in the progression of the route tree. But on top of that, I think he's getting just more comfortable with these guys and building a level of trust with them where he doesn't feel like I got to go play hero ball. I haven't seen Matt really make any throws where I was like, bro, that's a hero ball throw. You ain't got to do all of that. I think he's made some smart throws. Hell, there's even some throws that I thought that he should have made that I thought in the Super Bowl season he would have made those throws, maybe a little bit more risky, but I think he's been taking a lot of the safer options. So I think for him it's very important that he wants to control time of possession. He wants to give these young guys confidence, especially after all those comments came out that he can't connect with his young guys. I think through 2 weeks, that's completely bunk. And we knew it was completely bunk uh, ahead of time, right? Like it's football. It's not that hard, bro. So yeah, is he back? He never left. His offensive line left. He's healthy for the first time in probably the last 2 years. Even in the Super Bowl season when we got him, he was still nursing an injury, and you could tell because from week one all the way through the Super Bowl, them deep balls just didn't look the same. So I'm happy Matt's back. I think he's going to give us a fantastic year this year. I hope we can keep him clean, keep him upright, and he doesn't, tweak anything, especially if he want to get out here and start running. I hope every time he takes off, man, I was like, please don't let nobody jack him up. Like, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down. And I hope that we at least have him through next season healthy, because the way that this team is playing, I think you and I both agree we're going to miss out on one of these generational prospects at quarterback. Like it's not going to be a thing for us this year. Um, I actually think depending on the way that this team goes, I'm not asking for this, but I think depending on the way that this team goes, if we really are putting ourselves in a position to sneak into the playoffs, I do think that at the trade deadline, you think that Les would seriously consider moving off of our first to go get us an edge rusher. Um, and if we're going to move off of
100%.
first, that we're bringing in somebody. I still think that Brian Burns is the target. I still think that they have a good relationship with that front office, especially with so many Rams folks over there and that team needing so many things for their young quarterback. I said it earlier this week on another podcast, that I had thought initially that could be a landing spot for Cam Akers. I thought Minnesota was as well, but I think as much as our coaching staff likes Van Jefferson, I think once Cooper Kupp is able to return, Tutu and Puka, I don't see how you can put either one of those guys on the bench in favor of Van. And we know that Kupp is going to see the field. The young quarterback that they got out there in Carolina could use a receiver. Van's really got to help his own stock right now, right? Because he's in a contract year. He's got to catch some of these wide open balls and do the things that we know that he's capable of doing. Because I think he would be a solid receiver up there, and I think him plus probably a first and maybe a second in the 2025 draft would get us a Brian Burns. Carolina don't want to hear that, and there's probably even Rams fans that's hearing me say that right now, and they think that I'm tripping off acid. But I never would have thought that we would see Bobby Wagner, Ron Miller, and Odell Beckham Jr. in a Rams uniform. So nothing surprises me with this team anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if we gave away our first from now until the time that I'm in the casket, bro. So we'll see what happens.
I tweeted this maybe last week or this week, I don't know. Brian Burns needs to come to LA. That is the perfect target. Young edge. He's a monster, getting no recognition in Carolina. They're going to go 0-3. They have Andy Dalton starting this week. And that's a perfect point. You mentioned they need to build around Bryce Young, not the defense. So they need offensive line help. They could get Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft. Why not let us give you? I think we're gonna have to give them two first because that's what we offered last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this year they're not extending him. I don't know if he even wants to be in Carolina. So that's another thing too. We're gonna have to get him to agree to a contract because this can't be a rental. Obviously, he's way
Right.
too talented and young. So if we get Brian Burns with Aaron Donald, this looks like another Super Bowl run because every time we've made the Super Bowl, we went out and got edge. Dante
Mm-hmm.
Fowler, Von Miller. That seems to always be our issue every year. And we do fine at linebacker with these mid to average linebackers like Rose Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not worried about linebackers. Secondary, Darion Kendrick,
I've seen
if he
enough.
doesn't get
Play
it going,
Trey. Play Trey. I've seen enough.
Trey Tomlinson, yeah, I
Yeah,
would
play
love
Trey.
to see Tom. I just don't know. They're playing him on special teams, but I would love. He did pretty damn good in the preseason, and he did good in joint practices
I
with the
just want to see.
Raiders.
I just want to see it. I've had a season of DK. He didn't impress
Yeah,
me last year. His early work this year is not impressing me. In fact, I'm actually more irritated with him this year because he took the number one, and I'm like, bro, if you're gonna take that number, I'm gonna need you to be a dog. And the last, like him and Allen Robinson are the last two people to wear number one for the Rams, and they neither one of them been dogs. And so
nah,
I like either take the number off or learn how to play the position. But I've like I said, I've soured on DK. I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, just and even now they're putting out all these BS stats that say like, oh, he's allowed the least fewest yards of completion through the air. I said,
most pass deflections. Yeah,
pull up the penalty yards that he's given away. Pull that up because
and
that's
missed
the important
tackles
stats.
too. What about
Oh
missed tackles too?
yeah, I get it. He's a young player, and I hate to like abandon a young player so quickly.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying we can't go back to him. But what I am saying is there are prolific receivers that are now coming into the league, right? That were just in college a year ago, 2 years ago,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Did Trey Tomlinson not play against these guys?
He did.
Did he not win all the awards for the best DB in Division One football? Did he not
He
win those
did.
awards? Okay,
He did.
so magically he can't play against those same guys because they're wearing an NFL uniform. Is that what you're trying to convince me is happening?
Yep.
I think he can play. I want to see it. Now he could come out there and just be a bust. I don't think so, but I've seen enough of Trey. I've seen enough of DK to think that Trey deserves a chance to be on the outside. I think Kobe Durant is having some regression right now, and I don't even want to call it regression. I think he's him trying to fit into that star role.
Hmm.
It's a bit bigger than what he really anticipated, and I think it's going to take him a few more weeks to really get comfortable and find his feet there. But once he does, he'll be fine. Been really happy with the work that Akello's been doing on the outside. He's
Hell
super
yeah.
super solid.
Hmm.
I hope we can retain him for a little bit or go get some other help afterwards. But that is the kind of corner that we need. Like I said, put Trey on the outside. I would actually like to see, if we can't get Kobe to get comfortable in the star, and I know that's what they projected him to be, push him back to the outside, bring in John Johnson, and have John Johnson run the star, have Rush East run the star. Somebody needs to do something. And I did want to
Hmm.
just go right back to Brian Burns just for half a second. How what do you think about Byron Young, man? Because I like this kid. I'm seeing a lot of good things from him through 2 weeks. He's super fast. I think he really needs to work on his shifting from speed to power because I think right now he's all speed.
Yep.
And I think uh, he's built very physically similarly to Brian Burns. So I think being able to acquire Brian Burns would do for him what Bobby Wagner did for Ernest Jones.
Yeah, I think Byron Young has so much potential and he's showing it. Like you said, he's just super, super fast. Obviously, his strength he needs to work on. He looks like he's got the muscles and everything, but he doesn't have good hand techniques right now to
Mm-hmm.
get through the tackles, which is hard, obviously. But I think my thing with Juan Edge is more on Michael Hoyt. Like, he is slow as hell on the edge. He's 310 pounds.
That's what I'm saying.
He's a
Once
big
again,
dude.
I don't want to dog Hoyt, right? Like I'm happy for anybody that can make it, especially if you make it in the horns. And I think he's a good story. And I think
Mhm.
you need people like Michael Hoyt on your team in your locker rooms because that's what helps build the culture. And with the team where we haven't had a lot of high round draft picks, right? Having somebody that's worked his way up that you see that guy that's working so hard and now he has a starting roster spot, that puts pressure on all those people that were actually drafted in the second, in the third, and the fourth. Like, brother, like you seen this dude, he wasn't nothing. And he had to
Mhm.
earn his stuff. You see this guy out here eating like this, you gotta come to the table too. So I like him as a support person. I like him maybe even on the interior a little bit. But you're right. We got to be real, bro. We can't have no 310-pound dude out there on the edge.
Mhm.
Like I needed somebody got to give me something else besides this.
And he has
This
no coverage skills either. And
and
he's dropped back in coverage more than any edge in the NFL, which is nuts. But that's what I guess we think he is, right? It makes no sense.
I think it's not even necessarily that that's what we think he is. I think that's what we have available. That's the scary part.
And that's
Is
the issue.
yeah, we there's just no one else. I think Raheem Morris. I think his eyes light up the same way all of ours do when we see Hoyt going covers. Like, oh shit, right? Like
Yeah.
his eyes get big too. But it's
Yeah.
like at the same time, what are you gonna do? Like, who's behind him?
We tried John Johnson, then he missed a tackle. They quickly
Mhm.
took him out. Russ East has obviously been good at safety, so he's
Mhm.
staying there. And then Quentin Lake. Quentin Lake seems like he doesn't know what he's doing half the time, to be real. Expected more from him, especially in dime packages
Mhm.
where Michael Hoyt is dropping back. But that's why I want Burns, man. I think him and Young on the outside would just really set that edge and allow Donald to dominate on the inside. But
That's what I'm saying, man. I was so upset that we didn't go get that we were unable to attain like a Will McDonald or something this year. When the Jets took
I
Will McDonald,
know.
I just knew Will was going to fall to the second round. And when the Jets picked him, I was like, "You sons of."
I know. And another thing, too, you have to see with our defense, it's like these offensive coordinators, head coaches know,
Mm-hmm.
let's just go to the outside where Michael Hoyt
Mm-hmm.
is.
Yep.
McCaffrey's big run was to his side. Kenneth Walker, when he was getting yards outside, teams running on the middle and the A, B gaps on us aren't having much success. We have big boys over there. They're not having much success. It's everything on the outside. And even
Mm-hmm.
Byron Young, it's going to his side too. Like
Mm-hmm.
he does overrun a lot, but I think
Yep.
he's too good to just say, "Oh, we're done with him." Like, no, Michael
No.
Hoyt is the one that has to be. I'm not saying get rid of Michael Hoyt. I want
Mm-hmm.
him out there, but I don't want him out there playing 90+% of snaps.
What do we think about bringing back somebody like Terrell Lewis? And I know, right? The sketchy. It's
Mm,
another player with sketchy injury history, but he knows the
mm,
system well, and he did have a significant number of snaps that were good, not great, but good.
mm.
And I'm not suggesting him for the long term, right? This is not a long term solution. I'm just saying, get me a band aid right now that's a slight upgrade from Michael Hoyt. You can't convince me that Terrell Lewis isn't. And I think he's a free agent right now. I don't know why we're not picking up the phone.
Yeah, he is a free agent, and that's the thing with him. It's literally just injuries. That's the reason that no one's really took him. Um, I definitely feel that the Rams have to get Edge. That's what's his name? Akaranku.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah.
he looks good
Obo,
too this year.
yeah.
Yeah, Obo,
Oh,
yeah.
Obo looked good even down in Houston last season. He looked good, man. And
Exactly.
the Rams had this history over the last few years that we get a couple projects, right? And we
Hmm.
and we've been putting all the work and the labor into them, and then we just let them go, and then they start playing for these other players, and I'm like, dog, you telling me we couldn't hold down to that? I look at Obo. He's nothing prolific right now, right? But he's clearly out there making plays. He's better than Michael Hoyt. I'm looking at him. Jonathan Franklin Myers continues to haunt me. I don't understand how he's not in a uniform because him and Aaron Donald together is pressure.
Dude, he's killing it in New York, man.
Yeah, it makes me sick every time I think about it. Even Greg Gaines, like I haven't been paying too much attention to him in Tampa, but I
Me
thought
neither.
I thought Greg was he did well for us. He did that. You let good guys on the back end that bring the physicality. We talked about him. We're gonna go see him on Monday night. Nick Scott, like these are guys that we groomed and we built them into something, and we're just
Mhm.
letting them walk for whatever reasons, right? It's probably cap and all of this stuff, and they wanted to give some of these young guys burn, but it still hurts to see, man, because it's like we
It does.
need the skills that they have is what we're missing. So I just get frustrated. I am encouraged. Like I said, we do have some young guys that I think are stepping up. I think like Byron Young, I think is going to be okay in the long term. He's making a lot of rookie mistakes. That's to be expected, but I think that gets better with coaching. I think if you can get him a mentor to really show him what to do, he'll be good to go. I liked Kobe Turner's progression from game one to game two. I thought the stuff that you can see him in real time. He knows where stuff is happening, and he's got a great awareness of what's going on behind him in the play. And he's in Aaron Donald's ear. And so I really think, I'm not saying that he can be on the tier of Aaron Donald. That's hard for anybody. I don't care how physically gifted you are. That's hard for anybody. But I think they're gearing him up to take over the Aaron Donald role on the interior. We'll never get that same result from Aaron Donald, but go back and look at his tape from Wake Forest, man. Like, this kid knows how to get into the backfield, and he's hyper intelligent, and he's soaking up the game. And I think we've played two pretty good opponents, and went against a very physical offensive line. And I was really encouraged in the San Francisco game to see the progress that he's making. I think he's going to put it together in the next few weeks, and that could be something special.
Absolutely. All right, so we got a big game Monday night, a rematch of the Super Bowl from just 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the teams look a little different, mainly on our part, but they definitely got some new players in Cincinnati. So, what do you think happens Monday night as a little game preview?
Oh man, I hate saying this because this is the truth for any game, right? It only goes one of two ways. Either we're going to exploit all of those weaknesses in their offensive line, and this is the game where our young defense, especially that line, right? This is the game where Kobe Turner, this is the game where Byron Young, this is their coming out party, right? Aaron Donald's going to do his thing, but these young boys got to get home and do what we need them to do. They got to clean up the mess, especially with Burrow, who, if you look at him throughout the course of his career, his biggest plays when he's allowed to come outside the pocket, right? And he's not really a super mobile quarterback, but as opposed to climbing the pocket, he goes to the left or he goes to the right. He rolls out, and that's where he gets a lot of his big plays down the field. With his calf injury, I think 100% he's going to play, but with his calf injury, that's going to limit his side-to-side mobility. He's going to be looking more to step up in the pocket. I think Aaron in the middle is going to make that very difficult. I need Kobe Turner and I need Byron Young to get to him, right? So either we're going to take advantage of those mismatches there, or it's going to be a very ugly game for us defensively because we have not faced an offense with this kind of firepower yet this season. And like I said at the top of the show, we have a very undisciplined secondary. They have, make no mistake about it, 3 number 1 wide receivers in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. Those guys could go and be number 1s on any roster in the NFL right now outside of probably Minnesota and Miami. Like, they could go and be the number 1 receiver on any other roster right now. So they don't take a lot of time to get open. They're all very big. They're all very physical against our smaller DBs that are frankly not physical. They're just not physical at all. So we could get exposed very, very quickly, and they're all tremendous with yards after the catch. Jamar Chase especially. If you do not wrap him up, you will be looking foolish on the ground as he's running towards the end zone. Joe Burrow's not going to need a whole lot of time, and we've seen historically what the timing behind it looks with them. That back shoulder throw from Burrow to Jamar Chase is deadly because they don't even have to look. They just know, they feel it, and before you know it, it's in the hip pocket. And they can death by 1,000 cuts us all day, which I think is going to be the plan. I do think that Joe Mixon's going to get a lot of burn. They're really going to test us to the outside to test our discipline out there. And Joe Mixon is, even though he's advanced in his age for his career, he's still a very, very tough physical runner. He's seen the same thing that me and you seen, that this is a team that appears to not want to tackle or know how to tackle. So expect them to expose that. And like I said, they have a history with our team Their head coach is a former OC of ours, and even though we've got a new OC and we've tweaked the philosophy, they're cooking out of the same cookbook that we're cooking. So they're very, very familiar with what we do and how we run. It's a good matchup for us. It's a good test. I don't want Rams fans to be overconfident in this matchup because Burrow is nursing an injury. Burrow is a gamer. He's demonstrated several times over the course of his professional career that he's a dog and he's going to go play. Like I said, I really need this secondary. I really, really need the secondary to tighten up. Raheem Morris, Aubrey Pleasant, like I need them to be breathing life into these DBs, and do not be afraid to make a switch if somebody's getting dogged out. Like Trey Tomlinson needs to be on deck and prep, ready to run with the ones, because I'm telling you right now, DK is about to get cooked. I still got the Rams winning it, by the way. I got the Rams winning it, so don't listen to my analysis and be like, oh, he doesn't believe. No, I 100% believe that this is a game that we can win. I think it's a very winnable game for us. I think that defense has changed. I think, Kyron, as physical as a runner that he is, I think this could be a 100-yard rushing game for Kyron Williams. I also think that we're going to see Puka get his first touchdown and Tutu get his first touchdown. I think that Puka is really going to expose them over the middle of the field, probably 15 to 20 yards down the field, and it's going to open up some things for Tutu.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, Cincinnati has struggled to stop the run this year. And on offense, they're actually at the bottom in both passing and rushing yards. Big part of that, obviously, is the Burrow injury. They're adjusting their whole scheme right now to be more quick strike. That's why you're not really seeing Chase do much.
Mm-hmm.
He's not able to get deep. They're not going to risk Donald getting to Burrow if he does play, because he didn't practice again today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on board with you. He has to play because they're 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
If they were 1-1, 2-0, I think he does not play. They let him heal up, but
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore's 2-0. You got the other two teams, Cleveland and Pittsburgh, 1-1. So you're in last place right now. Monday Night Football, they're going to do everything they can, shoot them up with whatever to play. I did my game preview already, so I'm sure everyone that's tuned in already knows who I got winning. But like you said, we can't sleep on Cincinnati. I think it feels good because when I projected us to go 10-7, I did have us losing to Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the Rams have been playing, I think we definitely win this game. 24-20.
Mm-hmm.
Big part. I think Burrow, like you said, he's better when he bounces outside. He's not going to bounce outside now.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope we could get pressure on him, because maybe you never know. If we hit him a few times and he's limping,
Mm-hmm.
they might say, get out.
I think if we start getting to him early, they will pull him. Even if he wants to play, they will pull him. They just paid him all that money. They can't afford for him to really get a serious injury. And I think that's the part of the reason why he's not practicing this week, because they are trying to keep his workload as light as possible, hoping that he's getting as much recovery in, because they do plan to play him Monday night. Now they're calling up all these other quarterbacks, right? They're bringing them up, activating them for the game day roster. I think that's definitely a precaution, because they know there's a very realistic possibility that he gets on there for a quarter or a few plays or two, and he just can't go anymore. But I said this privately. I've said this to other Rams fans. I said it on this other podcast. Make no mistake about it. Cincinnati is looking at us as a get right game. They believe that they can not just beat us, they believe that they can absolutely dominate us offensively, and that we cannot score quick enough to maintain a shootout with them. Defensively, both of these teams are kind of in a similar position. There's not really anything crazy. The biggest difference for them is they've got Sam Hubbard, who's turned into a pretty good rusher off the edge. So, like I said, we have a chance to win this game, and I think we could win it by a pretty decent spread too. If we come out and punch them in the mouth on both sides of the ball, we can win this by a decent spread, but it could get ugly the other way real fast for us. So I really need, like I said, I need my young bulls to step up. I need that defense to do what we believe that they're capable of. I know what Aaron Donald can do. I need to see what the rest of everybody not named Aaron Donald can do.
All right, so can we get a score prediction?
Yeah, man. I've got Rams winning this one. Give me Rams 33, Bengals 27.
Let's go. All right, Soup, I want to say thank you again for joining, man. You're very knowledgeable. You definitely shared your knowledge here on this podcast. And again, let everyone know where they could find you.
Man, you guys can find me on Twitter. I refuse to call it that other thing. His mama named him Twitter, so I'm going to call him Twitter. You can find me on there. It's at ACDAGDB. That's Adrian Campbell, the goddamn Batman. You guys can find me on there for all of my good, terrible Rams takes.
All right, I appreciate you. And everyone else, have a blessed rest of your night. Enjoy your weekend. Go Rams, baby.
Go Rams.
It's 4 a.m. in New Bedford, I'm getting my shit together. City just ain't safe, these kids down for whatever. Letting the lead fly, they flocking just like a feather. I couldn't stay there forever, career not getting better. I ain't no rap, but can't imagine not getting cheddar. They posting pics in their base models, not even leather. It's not even leather. It's 4 a.m. White, wait. The city just ain't safe. I'm still here.